I do want to widen out our perspective, though, bring in our next guest. Joining us this morning, Pete Najarian, co-owner of Market Rebellion. Pete, great to have you on this show. I'd love to get your thoughts as we're into a new month of trading now, how 2026 has been for you and how it's stacked up against your expectations going in.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I think that they've basically hit everything out of the park exactly as we were hoping things would go because of what we're following, along with the unusual option activity that we constantly are watching that. And I'll tell you, this at some point you expected to see certain stocks maybe pull back a little bit. They've had this great run. Are they going to give a little bit of a pullback, which I think is very healthy? That's, I think, a great example of what we've seen recently with silver, with gold, and some of those. But I think that the reality is that there are certain areas of the marketplace that are definitely strong. Are some of them giving some back and not going straight up constantly? Yes, the memory world is part of that. So you look at Micron, you look at SanDisk and some of those types of names. I think it's a really, really interesting, and the volume, by the way, when it comes to January, was absolutely outstanding, averaging, again, something close to 65 million contracts per day. So people are very active, and that's just something that we've been getting every single year for the last, maybe call it 10 years. We're going up and up and up in terms of the volumes that are coming into the options world.
Pete, every time I have you on, we talk about this Burl-Ives trade because of gold and silver, and this time is going to be no different. Just a bit more of an interesting setup for us to talk about now. You know, we saw gold go up to 5,500, which was a number people had thrown out, but I certainly don't think they threw it out for January. We saw silver top. Then we saw the significant pullback, silver falling to, the biggest drop since 1980. How does the trade hold up now, and how are you approaching precious metals with some of this erratic price action that we've had?
Well, I think that we were waiting for a moment when you're going to see that pullback, right? I mean, the reality is we all know that it's never going to go straight up at that angle where it's bottom left to upper right on a path that doesn't have some pullbacks along the way. I think that's exactly what we were seeing specifically yesterday. Pretty beating down day for silver and gold, and yet we still had buyers coming into GLD and they were looking for more, and there was some size. I'm talking about very, very large 5-digit type numbers going in to try to buy even more back in the GLD. And today, what are we seeing? Even with this move to the upside, SLV, they're coming after silver like crazy again, and I think that they like the fact that they got the opportunity for this pullback. I mean, silver was just absolutely going to the stratosphere. Something was going to happen at some point, some sort of a pullback. That's exactly what we've seen. But today, they're right back in there once again and buying more SLV calls, mostly in spreads is what we are seeing. So a little bit cautious, but I think that's the smarter trade to have along the way as well. Just an amazing run, though, what we've seen out of the Burl-Ives trade, silver and gold. I mean, it really has been outstanding. And I think we had to expect that we were going to see some sort of a pullback like we've just seen in the last couple of days. But now, just an amazing move out of GLD, or out of gold itself. Gold on this run is absolutely an incredible recovery, I think, from where it was just yesterday.
And Pete, a question for our viewers here. As we're looking at these pullbacks or these sharp sell-offs in metals, and then we see the options light up, how do they distinguish between what's an opportunity and what might be the start of a breakdown?
Yeah, I think that's a difficult thing to be able to give you a really quality answer to that. I mean, I think we're all looking at the same thing and trying to figure out, all right, what is the next move? And I think that when I look at silver, I feel like I'm much more comfortable with the next move for silver than I am with gold. And the reason I say that is just all of what needed in the AI. If you like the AI trade, if you like the semiconductor world, if you like these things, I think that there's a reason that you should be still fairly bullish on silver. And I know it's made a big, huge move to the upside, but it's amazing how much silver is, the usage of silver is in the markets today, whether you want to talk about the EV space or the computer space or the phones and everything else. Silver is in demand, and I think it's a great read for us. And obviously, when we talk about AI constantly, like we all do, AI is definitely in need of silver across just about every platform that they've got. So makes it pretty interesting for me, and I think all of us should keep a very close eye on this one, if nothing else.
All right, I want to pivot to earnings here. We've had a lot of macro noise out there, but the earnings are holding up. I think we're about an 80% beat rate so far. As far as what we've seen, what are some of your takeaways from the earnings that we've gotten so far? And also, do you think they can sustain this rally?
Yeah, I do. I feel very similar to what it would look like last year. And when we've heard some of the earnings, not just now, but even in the past quarter, when you hear what Micron has to say about demand and you hear what SanDisk is saying and some of these, I think it's an amazing move to the upside that we are seeing. And I don't know that I think it's over yet. And I think that when we look at this, a lot of people were saying, well, this is a bubble that's going to pop. Well, it hasn't really popped to that degree yet. And we are seeing a pullback today. I'm the first one to acknowledge what we're seeing going on in terms of the memory space. But that makes so much sense. Just look year to date what some of those different stocks really have done already just in the month of January and now into February. And yeah, you're going to see some pullbacks along the way. That makes total sense. That's what a healthy market does. But I do think that when you go across and you see what's going on with the earnings, and you guys were just talking about Palantir, could they have beat it any more? I mean, they absolutely crushed every single number that's out there. And I think did that catch some people by surprise? Well, it must have, because this stock has made a very, very parabolic move to the upside. I think that there still is plenty of room. And when you look at their outlook, I would say that they remain incredibly bullish still as well.
And we're seeing a lot of bullish setup coming into a lot of these big names in the AI trade here. Just this week, we've got AMD coming today, Google tomorrow, Amazon Thursday. As far as options action, where are you seeing the most aggressive positioning here?
We haven't, it's interesting that you asked that question, because we haven't seen nearly as much on the unusual option side of things positioning themselves for some of these stocks that we're going to see. They will, but they haven't been. We did see Apple very late before earnings. We see some of the call buying and so forth. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if we see something coming very soon, because we're going to need to see it soon with AMD and the rest. It's going to be something that I think will be very, very interesting. But we've got to see some of those options for me to be able to say, okay, at these levels, I'm going to be a part of this. So that's the trigger that I'm waiting for, is seeing some of that unusual option activity. Like I say, we haven't seen it. We haven't seen in NVIDIA's way down the line, but we haven't seen much in NVIDIA. We haven't seen much in AMD just yet. We had been seeing other of those names, like in the past I was talking about Micron and so forth, SanDisk and some of those. But now it's just sort of sitting and waiting to see, are they going to be as bullish as they've been over the past couple of quarters? My gut tells me yes, but I'd sure like to see some of those options come in that are going to tell us a little bit more of what some of the big boys are thinking is going to happen with this earnings.
Pete, such a great chat with you as always. Thank you for being with us today. We really appreciate it. Always wonderful to have you on the show. Pete Najarian, the co-owner of Market Rebellion.